The opposite of your parents is a horrible strategy for living life. Even if your parents were terrible fucking parents, that is a horrible strategy for living your life, and especially for parenting as well. The opposite of shit is still shit. So many people go through life thinking, especially when it comes to parenting their own kids, well, I just do the opposite of what my parents did. You're still using bad as a fundamental orientation point. And so you're pinging off of that and assuming if it's the opposite of that, it must be good, right? I've had clients who said, well, my parents were so distant and neglectful and non-affectionate, and so I give so much affection to my kids and pour on the affection. Ask a 10-year-old kid, ask a 14-year-old kid how enjoyable it is to have a parent constantly glomming on and giving mountains of affection. Ask them if they think that's a good parenting strategy. Or ask that same kid when they're 32 if that was a good parenting strategy back then. No, you know what they're going to be doing? They're going to be doing the opposite of that extreme affection. Okay, what's fundamental inside of this is this. That we take something, and it doesn't even have to be something so extreme as that. We take something in the parent that we don't like, and we take that and we say that whole thing is bad, and we reject it completely. So, for example, I'm an extremely vain person. I really am. So it would be very easy for my kids to say, who are now in their 30s, to say, well, Pop was an extremely vain person. I'm going to reject all things that have anything to do with vanity, and I'm just not going to care how I come across, my appearance, and so on and so forth. Now, my kids aren't that way, but they could have. They could have said, I just reject that completely, and I'm just going to be a slob, and I'm not going to care about that, because that's bullshit. I'm going to reject it completely. Well, that's not necessarily a good strategy for going through life, especially if you want to be productive in the world, if you want to have relationships, friendships, have a career. Unfortunately, in our life, how you present yourself matters, at least to some degree. I mean, let's be reasonable, okay? So the point is that even in your parents' worst quality, there is still some measure of necessity or potentially even good. I'm not saying they were good. I'm saying that quality is still necessary. But if you reject it outright as completely bad, you're rejecting part of yourself that might still be there. Do you see what I'm saying? In other words, taking something that you don't like in them and saying all of it is bad isn't accurate. Part of it is still there. So you've got to ask yourself, have I been rejecting something out of hand about my parent that in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad characteristic? It wasn't the characteristic, it was the degree to which my parent took it that was the bad thing, not the characteristic itself. And is it possible you actually do have that characteristic in you, just to a smaller degree? And maybe you'll be happier if you actually allow yourself to express and live that characteristic? Have a kick-ass day.